Okay, we are recording. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nayeli Lopez. I'm the new assistant director for the Seoul office here at TAMU. I'm very, very excited to be here. Hopefully some of you have met me before, but if you haven't, it's nice to meet you virtually. I'm very excited to be working at Seoul. I've been teaching dance here at TAMU for the past 4 years now. So I teach the ballet folklorico here. So maybe you've seen me before in performances or other activities around campus. So we're going to go ahead and start. Today's presentation on Social Justice Leadership Series is on colorism in the Latinx community. So I'm very excited that y'all are here with us today from beginning. And let me know if you're not able to see the PowerPoint, which I think you're able to see it now. Great. So here are a couple of learning outcomes that you will be participating in today. So we will be having a lot of dialogue, a lot of conversation with our Social Justice Leadership Series program. So it's all about discussion. It's all about speaking up, talking about your experiences. It's really about learning from each other. And so we're going to be having this dialogue about social justice and colorism in the Latinx community. You'll also have time to reflect on and discuss with each other about the meaning of this, and you're working together to have this conversation, talk about controversial questions, and just critically examine social identity-based relations and issues. And then lastly, you will gain a knowledge of what Latinx and colorism means. So, about Social Justice Leadership Series. So this is a new initiative through the Seoul office that we just started. This is our second program. And so just a little bit of background, nationally institutions have had a rise of reports of discrimination and student protests where they feel their voices are not being heard. Institutions face social justice issues and inequities. And in order for our institution, right, to live up to its mission, we must continuously provide these resources like this program to support all of our students, staff, and administrators. We must continue to have this critical eye on where our institution stands and how we can effectively provide all these opportunities for you all. And so through the Seoul office, this is an effort to incorporate values of service, of respect, and we really want to encourage personal growth around individual identities, power, and dynamics. So that's one of the reasons why we need as much participation as possible. And so we will have lots of programs throughout the whole academic year. They're all on Trailblazers. So if you haven't seen them, we have 12 programs throughout the whole year. Really great programs for you all. And so again, we really want to come together to really effectively facilitate dialogues on issues of social justice, talk about power, privilege, oppression, and identities. So that's really what Social Justice Leadership Series is. Also, just so you know, we do have the Social Justice Leadership Ambassador role, which will start next fall, so in a year. It's different than S.J.L.S because Social Justice Leadership Series, every year we're always going to have different topics within social justice. And so some of the requirements would be to attend 6 out of 12 of our social justice leadership programs in this year. And so again, this new leadership ambassador role will begin next year, fall 2021. Some of the benefits are in the PowerPoint, recognition, emerging leader celebration, Social Justice Leadership Ambassador Medal, and we'll continue to add to that. So if you are very interested, I do see a lot of similar names that attended the previous one on Latino masculinity. So I'm so glad to see y'all come back. So social justice, and I'm sure you've seen this definition before, but if you haven't, this is the definition that we will be using in all of our programming so we can all have the same definition about social justice. So here, social justice is the inclusion of everyone in the full benefit of society. So keyword is everyone, right? And the full benefits. And it's also an empowerment of people to participate fully, keyword fully, in the economic, social, and cultural life of the country. So make sure you kind of start to get more familiar with this definition. So I'm going to go ahead and do a poll question. The first poll question for today. Great. Where is polling? There we go. It's loading, y'all. It's not going to let me do the full question. It always does. Oh, for some reason, it's not letting me right now. All right, so we'll go ahead and do the chat, or we can speak up. So the first question is, have you heard the Latinx term before prior to today's program? So have you heard Latinx? Because I think it's important to understand what Latinx is. So have you heard about Latinx? Yes or no? Okay, thank you, Ellen. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, no, Daisy, and that's totally fine. So a lot of yeses, a few no's. Okay, very good. Thank you for participating. And the next question would be, have you heard the Latinx term before starting college? So before you got to TAMU, or if you're a transfer student, before you started college, have you heard the term Latinx? Okay, so we got more no's. Okay. Before starting college, no, Barbara? Okay, so yeah, so okay, good. So you have heard about it in college. Very good. So Latinx is a gender-neutral term in comparison of the Latino-Latina binary. So in the emergence of Latinx coincides with a global movement to introduce gender-neutral nouns and pronouns into many languages whose grammar has traditionally used male or female constructions. So for example, Spanish, we usually have Latino, Latina. So we've been introducing Latinx. And actually in the US, the first use of Latinx appeared more than a decade ago. It was actually added to the dictionary back in 2018, reflecting its greater use. So here were some statistics and some research on Pew Research. 1 out of 4 US Hispanics have heard of Latinx, but only 3% use it. Only 3% use it. Very interesting. Today, the two dominant labels in use are Hispanic and Latino, which origins in the 1970s and 1990s. So it's very interesting how 1 out of 4 have heard about it, but only 3% use it. Very, very interesting. So I'm glad, though, that y'all have been hearing about Latinx. I really want y'all to understand before we move on. There we go. There you go. So you can see the little pie chart there. Next, young adults ages. So you all, right, even my age too, we're in the group that most of us have heard the term. 42% say that they've heard it compared to maybe older folks, right? So people that are older in age, not a lot of them have heard the term. So about 4 out of 10 Hispanic college graduates say they have heard of Latinx. So it's just something to keep in mind, how it's very important to keep talking about this term, to keep having this term around when we talk in our language, right? Latinx. I wanted to show you this because I thought this was very interesting. As you see this slide, the popularity has risen. Oh, Jonathan didn't know it. Oh, Jonathan put something in the chat. Thank you, Jonathan. The term Latinx has had a rise in online popularity since 2016, but it's still below the terms Latina, Latino, Hispanic. And this bottom one right here, you see how the most popular term on Google searches was Latina. You see here from 2011 to 2020. So the most common term was Latina, then Latino, Hispanic. And then you see here Latinx in the very bottom, only up to 2020, there's been more, but a little bit more of an increase. So it's very, very interesting on the rise of that. So before we get into colorism, I want to make sure I answer Jonathan's question here on the chat. He put, didn't hear until I got into college. And even then, I still didn't understand the meaning behind the terminology. Thank you, Jonathan, for mentioning that up. I think it's very important in today's session to really understand what Latinx means, right? So it's this gender neutral term, and it doesn't mean that you have to use it, but it's a way to be a little bit more inclusive, right? Because to get away from the Latino or Latina binary, right? The gender binary. So thank you, Jonathan, for expressing that. Very good. So we're going to go ahead into about what colorism is. We're going to jump into that for today. And if y'all have any questions, feel free to stop me or put it in the chat. Thank you. All righty. So what is colorism? So colorism is similar to racism, but within communities of color, it is how different skin colors are valued. Most often, light skin is seen as better than dark skin. So a lot of this is based on research, right? But again, and when we talk about within the Latinx community or any community in general, light skin is seen as better than dark skin. And so Latinx are thought of as people of color. For example, I identify as a woman of color. I'm Mexican American, identify Latina, Latinx, right? So within the system of racism, meaning that they cannot be racist, but can be prejudiced since they lack the systemic power, whiteness, to actually be racist. However, this ideology of racism permeates Latinx culture from phrases like, and I'm sure you've heard this before, mejorar la raza, right? I'm sure you all have heard that before. Better the race, by marrying a white or lighter skinned Latinx individual to anti-Black policies that have been led to Latin America. So it's very important. It's synonymous with racism. So sometimes it's a little bit hard to distinguish between racism and colorism. It can get tricky, but hopefully this presentation will help you distinguish that. Again, it's a form of discrimination based on skin color. So here's some examples of colorism. And these are some quotes, some phrases. Black and Latinx aunts telling you to date light-skinned men, women, individuals, colorism, right? Mejorar la raza, that's one of the terms. I know growing up, I've heard that so many. Even up to today, I hear people, whether they're my family or not, I hear people saying that. Another term is seeing, for example, like a light-skinned white baby and saying, ay, qué bonito, we hear that a lot in the Latinx community, ay, qué bonito está. But when they see maybe a darker skinned baby or an individual saying, ay, pobrecito, right? Ay, pobrecito, está morenito, right? And so these terms and these phrases that people say, these are examples of colorism. Another example would be parents who hope their babies grow up light skinned, so their lives would be just a little bit easier. And this actually, I got this quote from one of the research. And so it's interesting how parents, they're hoping for their babies to have lighter skin, right? And this actually is not just from the Latinx community, from a lot of other communities, including Asian, Oriental, etc. And so the quote of lighter is better. And so I want to open it up to discussion. And just let me know if you've had a colorism comment sent towards you before. So have you had a colorism comment sent towards you? Have you been told something with a colorism? You can put it in the chat, yes or no. I have back in elementary school. Thank you, Yovanka, for sharing. I think Isaac, okay, so Leslie, no, okay, thank you. Anybody else has had a comment said to them specifically? Yes. I've been praised for looking like a different race. Okay. Alan, within my family, it's considered taboo to marry someone of darker skin. Okay, very interesting. I disagree with it though. Okay, thank you for sharing, Alan. Yeah, so even within families, right? It's interesting how it can be taboo to marry someone from a darker skin, right? All righty. So my other question would be, have you heard a colorism comment in general from family or friends, maybe not towards you, but just in general? Evelyn put, when I was in elementary school, I was called Indian because of color. Wow. Okay. So maybe your classmates would say that. Wow, I'm shocked. Yes, many times. It's kind of sad. Okay. So a lot of you have heard some type of colorism comment or some type of phrase. So I wanted to bring up to discussion, whoever would like to share. If you'd like to put your mic on, your camera on, I think it'll be a little bit more powerful. Or if you like to type it, share maybe one of these comments or experiences that you've had, whether it was towards you or towards when you just heard it. So who'd like to share? Because I see lots of yeses here. I see lots of yeses. Talk about that experience. Share that. What was the phrase? What was said?
I guess I can. I always get this comments because I myself have not learned Spanish. So every time like I get with my tias, and just like, you're literally in Laredo. How do you not know Spanish? Those types of things. It's like a constant thing, but yeah, that's one of my experiences with that.
Okay, thank you, Isaac, for sharing that. Thank you. Thank you, Haiti. I have here a lady I know did not want to try and have a second child because she was afraid she would come out of color. Wow, okay. and not light-skinned, despite the own mother being dark-skinned, as it is to be afraid of her own color. Okay, thank you, Haiti, for sharing. So you know someone who was so afraid to have another child because they were afraid for them, to maybe have a darker skin and not light-skinned. Wow, it's interesting. And thank you for sharing, because these are experiences, right? These are actual experiences. Anybody else would like to? Oh, thank you, Jovanka. Jovanka put, like I mentioned before, in elementary, there was this girl who would literally tell me always that I was neja, which means dirty. And I remember it followed me up to high school. I used to sleep with sunblock because I heard it would lighten your skin. Wow. I even stopped going out because of that. Wow. Well, I'm so sorry, Ivanka, that you had to go through this, especially at a young age in elementary school. That's a lot. So thank you so much for sharing. And that's tough, right? And so as we all reflect and read these comments or hear our other fellow students talk about this, I want you to really reflect. Maybe it hasn't happened to you, maybe you haven't heard it, but I really want you to reflect as you read these comments or just hear other people talk. Alan put, I'm sorry that happened to you, Ivanka. And then Adamadi put, yes, the same happened to me when I was pregnant. Thank you for sharing. Everyone would ask me if my baby would be dark or light skinned, and it bothered me. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. And I'm sorry, that Maddie, that that was even a topic of discussion, right? But thank you for sharing. And then Evelyn put, I'm sorry about that. I'm sure now you know your worth and how mature that was. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. So again, I want you all to keep reflecting on these conversations and discussions that we're having, because that way you can really, again, if you haven't maybe heard about it, or if you haven't experienced it, a lot of people in this WebEx right now have experienced colorism, right? Or have experienced comments, whether towards them or towards they've heard it towards somebody else. So again, I really want you to reflect on this. Oh, Jonathan put, thank you for sharing. My friends and I went to SPI on a school trip. And when we went to the outlets, we went into a shop as a big group. And this man said very out loud, well, it looks like we got a whole group of Mexicans here. I wasn't as offended as some of my other friends, but that was a shock to hear that. So Jonathan, maybe for you, maybe they made that comment. Do you think it was because of, of how you looked, right? How people just automatically may think, you would look a certain way, they may perceive you within that identity. So I'm sorry that you had to experience that, right? So a lot of these examples, right, are from colorism, but I think it's also very important to distinguish racism, right? There's some comments that can be completely, right, racist or so thank you so much for sharing that. All righty, we're going to go ahead and continue. And again, I encourage you to have as much discussion. Oh, Priscilla, before I continue. Priscilla Gomez put, my brothers are light skin color and I'm not. And I always get comments about why I'm not light skin color. I'm sorry about that, Priscilla, that you've had to go through that. But this is one of those examples, right? Where it's like, maybe you have other family members who are light skinned and then yourself, you may not be. And so you have these comments. So, as we all reflect on this, these are comments that are still happening, right? Even in today's 2020. And so just be really aware on the language that we use and how we communicate with people, because sometimes our intentions, right, they're not to be mean or evil, but sometimes just the way we ask, for example, I don't know who it was earlier said about, they were pregnant, people were asking whether it was maybe a light skin or dark skin, etc. So just be very conscious of how we use language and how we talk to our families and friends, because it can be very, it can be colorism, right? Which is not acceptable. So, alrighty, thank you. We're gonna go ahead and continue. Let me go ahead and share back my screen. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and watch this PowerPoint. It's called Latino Colorism, and I'm actually going ahead and share you the link, because I think it's better when I share you the link. That way you're able to watch it on your own. So let me go ahead and share it with you. There it is. Here's copying and paste this here in the chat. That way you're able to see it. It's about 5 minutes, but I think it's actually pretty good. It talks about Latino colorism. So there it is. So go ahead and watch it and come back to this session. It's about 5 minutes, please, because we're going to discuss it. So just let me know when y'all are done watching the video so we can discuss. Hopefully y'all liked it. Thank you, Alan, for sharing. You can't believe that they stripped the Brazilian woman's title just because she was too dark. Yes, actually, true story. Yes, it happened. And Alan, stuff like that happens a lot, not just with beauty or beauty pageants, it's stuff like that just in general. So thank you. So is everybody finished? I think a lot of people have come back. Thank you. Thank you, Daisy. I can't believe they actually replaced her. Yeah, Andrea. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get into discussion. What are your thoughts about the video? It talked about colorism. It's a little bit more straightforward, a little bit more edgy. It comes to show how even our fellow members of the community can be our enemies. Yes, yes. So even within the Latinx community, right, or other communities, again, it's colorism. It's people within your community, right? If you're a lighter skin Latinx or darker skin, right? We have this, unfortunately, for many, many years, this mentality, right, of quote unquote lighter is better or mejorar la raza, right? So thank you for sharing. Who else would like to share? What were your thoughts on this video? Thoughts on the video? It's true. I'm always learning new things about modern issues. Yes, very good. Thank you. So unless anybody any other thoughts?
Yes. Okay, so hi. Oh, wait, let me turn on my camera so you can see who's talking. Hi, Annabelle. So one thing is I really liked about the video was that it gave examples on racism and colorism so you can differentiate which is which. So I really like that about the video.
Thank you, Annabelle, for sharing. Yes, yes. So very important not to confuse both of them because it can be tricky. Thank you, Annabelle, for clarifying that. So, Salia, you put, I think it's also important that they noted the idea of passing, since it's extremely prevalent in our society and within our community. Yes, passing, right? They talked about passing and how, if you look a certain way, right, that passing. Very good. Thank you. Would anyone else like to share? All righty, then. We're going to go ahead and continue. And make sure we're going to watch one more video in a little bit. And that one's like very good too. So, all right, let's go ahead and continue then. Share content. Here we go. So you already watched the PowerPoint. So how does colorism affect Latinx communities? So let's talk a little bit about the history of colorism, right? I think it's important for us not just to understand the Latinx term, not just for us to differentiate between colorism and racism. Let's talk a little bit about the history of colorism, right? A lot of it is on the result of colonization. Also, we had the Spanish caste classification, which was a hierarchical ordering of racial groups according to the proportion of Spanish blood. So this is a little bit of history based on gender, race, skin, place, color, place of birth, mestizo. They had mixed race individuals. A little bit also, I just wanted to touch base on slavery, just in general. Now, maybe a lot of y'all don't, may not know, but there was a lot of slavery, not just in Mexico, but in other countries, right? And so I was doing a little bit of research, a little bit of history, and I was finding out, that just in general, slaves were with lighter skin. Even in those times, if they had lighter skin, they were assigned domestic tasks, because while slaves were darker skin, were forced to work outside in the fields, doing much grilling tasks. And so it's just interesting how lighter skin, even slaves were favored because they were often, the product of slave owners, etc. So them creating a lighter skin child. So it's very interesting. A little bit more of a history of colorism was also, have you all heard about the paper bag test? If you haven't, it's one of the things I've also been learning recently. In the 19th century and 20th century, the paper bag test was often utilized in Black spaces. Now, when I talk about Black spaces, you also have to understand that a lot of Latinx, right? Dominicans, Mexicans, a lot of people identify as Black, right? As people of color. And so a lot of in these Black spaces, they had, and in hiring of Black people, if someone was the same color as or lighter skin than a paper bag, they would be allowed into space considered for hire. If they were any darker than a paper bag, they would not. So it's very interesting about our history, also hiring practices. Skin tone, unfortunately, was often the most important factor in applying for work. As a person of color in the mid 20th century, light skin was often reported on a resume ahead of any other information or experience. So it's very interesting in our history. And also this has emerged, this has emerged throughout European colonial and imperial history. Colorism is prevalent in countries as distant as Brazil, as you saw, right, in the videos, India, a lot of other countries. And so it's very interesting. Also, its legacy, how evident it is. And we're going to talk a little bit now about modern, but it's also very evident, right, in today's world with modern colorism. So there's a little bit of the history of it. I think it's very important. So I'm going to go ahead and send you this link. I think some of you have seen this before, but if you haven't, I want you to watch this because this is very impactful. This is just 2 minutes, but I want you to watch this. Here it is. Go ahead and watch it and then come back. Alrighty, y'all just let me know when you are done watching the video. This video. So thoughts on it as people start gathering back? I think some people are still watching. Mm-hmm. Alrighty, so thoughts on the video. That was so sad. Thank you, Alan, for sharing. Yes. And this, I mean, this has been done, my heart. Yes, Annabelle. So I hope you, if you haven't watched it, please watch it. It's just 2 minutes, but it's really, really impactful. Yes, it is very sad. You can notice their facial expressions as they ask which doll is good or bad. Thank you, Melissa. Yes. So this is a doll test, right? For children, they have a light-skinned doll and they have a dark-skinned doll. And these are young children. And it's like, who's good, who's bad, you know, and when they're asked, okay, who's good out of the two dolls, they point to the light-skinned doll. And they're like, who bad, you know, they point to the darker skin. So it's very interesting on how children have this idea mentality, right? Jovanka, you put it so sad. Like, why would people do that to kids? It only makes them be more insecure. You can see how much they hurt it. Yes, it is sad because they have been taught this way. Yes, Evelyn. So this is one of the videos, and this actually was done back in the 1940s, 1950s. I mean, it's a research that has been done on just for us to see, you know. And so I just wanted you all to see that. We're going to go ahead and continue. But it's very impactful. Haiti, I feel like even we have that embedded on us to a certain degree. Yeah, we do, Haiti. Unfortunately, we do. And Jonathan, you can tell a lot of what goes on in the video. The mentality and viewing of other people's skin is all tracked back to how they were raised. Yes, Jonathan, very good point. How you were raised. And if you see the video, the children are like, what, maybe like 3, 4 to 8 years old. I mean, they're young, they're children, and have all types of children, right? You know, and so it's very interesting. Priscilla, you put how the girl says that the question offended her because the skin color. Yeah. So at the end, you know, they're realizing. So at first they're like, okay, good, bad, which one's pretty, which one's ugly, or, you know, etc. But then I think at the end they're like, you know, they kind of feel bad because it's like, you know, maybe maybe the child is just darker skin and they're pointing at a doll, you know. So it's very interesting. It's a very impactful video. So if you weren't able to watch it, I encourage you to watch it. So yeah. Oh, what did you? Oh, yes, Carla. Wow, that was such a touching video. Being a mother of 3, I always try to teach my kids that we're all the same, no matter our color. Thank you, Carla, for sharing. Yeah, so it's very important education our children. Jonathan, a lot of times you can easily see that racism can continue to the next generation because of those people that teach their children to have that mentality, and that's how it sadly continues even to this day. It's so sad how they say their own color is bad. Yes, Andrea, very good. So that's why I wanted to share this with you, because even children, it's like they even say that their own color is bad, and so. It's very, very interesting. So thank you all for sharing. Thank you. I like these discussions. I like these posts. So thank you all so much for sharing. So we're going to go ahead and move on. All righty. So modern colorism, yes. So modern colorism, we see this in television, film, Hollywood, media, social media. Again, people of the same ethnicity face different expectations, different realities, and potentiality, different educational and economic outcomes solely based on their skin color. So even within the same identity Latinx groups, we face this, right? We have this. So a research that was done, I wanted to share with you. Eddie Fergus, an assistant professor from New York University, he conducted a study of Latino high school males. He found out that Mexican and Puerto Rican males with white-looking skin, right? This is his research, are perceived as white, right? So, and they're perceived as white and sometimes treated more favorably, while boys of the same ethnicity, so same Mexicans, same Puerto Ricans, who had darker complexions are perceived as Black and often experience discrimination, right? So it's very interesting how people of color, right, identify as a woman of color, but it's very interesting how, you know, a person may just identify as completely white, right? So it's very interesting on his research and his studied. Not only did the boys in the study navigate the world as Mexican and Puerto Rican, but each navigated different racial expectations based on external reactions to their appearances. So it's very interesting on his research on what he did for Latino high school males. And something I also wanted to point out is the association of dark skin with criminality has become one of the most deep-seated stereotypes in American society. Many social scientists say this, you know. Multiple studies have shown that dark-skinned people are shown that, you know, multiple studies have shown that dark-skinned people are perceived to be more suspicious, more likely to misbehave, and more likely to commit crimes. Unfortunately, there's this research that has been put out there. And can anyone share with me how they see colorism play out in the media? So how do you see colorism in the media, whether it be television, film, movies, social media? How do you see it? Talk to me. How is that being playing out in today? Because I know y'all are on social media and stuff. How do you see modern colorism? Lack of dark skin representation. Yes, thank you, Shelley. Lack of dark skin representation, right? Whether that be movies, whether that be television. What else? Could it be the reaction to having the Little Mermaid be a person of color? What do you mean by that, Yovanka? I think Yovanka.
Ms. Lopez, I think I can elaborate on that.
Okay. Okay.
Turn on my camera.
Thank you.
Okay. So where the Little Mermaid was gonna have like a live action movie, and they came out with an actress that was Black, and then she got a lot of negative reactions. Like it was all over like social media. Like people did not agree that the Little Mermaid should be Black, because in the movie, in the animation movie, it's she was white. So that was the scandal.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's very interesting, right? We have Disney, who's a great company, and they're bringing out Little Mermaid, and they decided, to have a Black individual, right, person of color, represent Little Mermaid, and all the feedback and the lashback, right? Very interesting. Thank you for sharing. All right, let me look at the chat, because y'all are blowing up the chat, which is good. Isaac, light skin, successful, groundbreaking news. Yep, we see that a lot, right? All right, Jonathan, how Latinos, Hispanics are portrayed on film and television is only rationalized on the stereotypes that have been seen or heard about us. Yes, right? So whenever we have Latinx people on movies, it's usually, not all the time, but usually, right, the stereotypes. You can also see that on television shows. Jonathan, on race cultures, for example, the only actual Latino show you can talk about from your childhood was the George Lopez. Yeah, it's very true. And they've even had a hard time getting that too and be on the TV in the beginning. Thank you for sharing. Andrea, in a movie, the successful person is light skin, while darker skinned people are portrayed as criminals or the antagonists. Very good. Isaac, dark skin, crime, bad news. Yeah, we see that a lot. Paola put, police be more aggressive towards people of color. Yeah, just in general, right? We see that, especially recently, but we've seen that for a long time. Shelly put recently a dark skinned Black woman went viral because her caption was very confident in herself, and she basically got a lot of hate for simply feeling pretty and got a lot of racist, colorist comments. Yeah. Got input in Mexican telenovelas, the majority of the main characters are still white. Wow, very good point. Yes, in telenovelas, even up to today, the telenovelas, they're, a lot of the main characters are lighter skin, right? So we see this. This is happening, right? We see this in modern day colorism, not just the history of it, not just with little kids and children. It's still happening, right? So we're going to go ahead and continue, but I wanted you to see that, colorism it's still very prevalent in our culture, in our community, right? Alrighty, we're going to go ahead and continue. Privilege. So we're going to talk a little bit about privilege. Again, privilege operates on personal, interpersonal, cultural, and institutional levels and gives advantages, favors, and benefits to members of dominant groups at the expense, keyword expense, of members of target groups, right? So here's some examples. So in the Latinx culture, lighter skin is seen as better in Latinx community, right? This is based on research. This is based on what has happened. Light-skinned Latinx individuals, these are some facts. They earn more money. Light-skinned individuals complete more education. They live on more integrated neighborhoods, have better mental health than dark-skinned Latinx folks. So they have these resources, right? One of the studies from 2012 showed that employees viewed light-skinned Black Latinos, so people of color candidates, as more intelligent than their darker counterparts. Like what? There's studies done that some candidates are just viewed more intelligent. So it's very shocking to me. We're going to talk a little bit about power, because it all interconnects. Power, right? The ability or official authority to decide what is best for others, the ability to decide who will have access to resources. So keyword access, the capacity to exercise control for others. So when we go on a previous slide, right, we have here, some Latinx folks who are lighter skin have better mental health than dark-skinned Latinx folks. So again, a lot of that goes to power, right? Who has access to these resources? And then just oppression. Here's just a couple of definitions that you can continue to study. It's a combination of prejudice and institutional power, which creates a system that discriminates against some groups, often called target groups, and benefits other groups, right? So there's some groups that are benefiting and some groups that are not. And so here are some definitions that you can read, but there's lots of different things within oppression. So when we think of Latinx communities and colorism in Latinx, right, we can also think about oppression, power, and privilege, right? On how, again, we go back to the slide on how a lot of lighter skinned folks that are Latinx earn more money, they complete more education, live more in integrated neighborhoods, and have better mental health. And these are just some examples. And so as we continue in this presentation, I want you to really think about that, on how privilege, power, and oppression is in colorism in the Latinx folks and community. We're going to talk about the effects on Latinx community. So some effects that, as we talked about, we watched videos, we had conversations right now. Trauma is a big thing that can happen within colorism, the Latinx community. People can be really affected for many, many years. Psychologically, it can really have an impact on a person's. So comments, the language that we use, that's why I really encourage you to use inclusive language. You know, like you're just with your family and friends, start practicing that. Self-worth can really affect the Latinx individual, right? You saw that video of the children who are picking dolls, light-skinned dolls and darker-skinned dolls. That can have somebody's self-worth be affected, the self-esteem, the confidence. We also have this quote-unquote white is right mentality. So it's one of the effects that it can have on the Latinx community. So we need to keep this in mind as we move forward and understand, and as we talk about power, privilege, and oppression within the Latinx community. So what can I do? So you're thinking about, okay, I've watched videos, I'm hearing about Latinx, I'm hearing about all these terms. What can I do? A lot of it comes to self-reflection. That's a big part of yourself. Also, unlearning what we have learned about beauty and success. I think it was Alan and somebody else put in the group chat earlier about, you know, if you're lighter skin, you're success. And unfortunately, that is one of the things that happens. So unlearning what we have learned about beauty and success should look like. Breaking the steady stream of whiteness that dominates Latin American media, politics, and culture, right? We talked about how that's looked in the media. Be conscious of elevating, uplifting voices that break our culture expectations when it comes to colorism. Have those hard conversations with family and friends. It's very important, as long as you're safe, right? And you're willing to have these conversations with family and friends. I hear it all the time, mejorar la raza, hay que mejorar la raza. That's one of the comments I do not like. And so having those conversations with family and friends when the opportunity, you're able to talk with them and just ask them questions like, well, what do you mean by that, right? When you see somebody says mejora la raza, you can just talk to them, maybe not on the spot, maybe not in front of other people, but on the side, just be like, hey, could you explain a little bit further? I want to understand what you mean by that, right? So starting to have these conversations with people. Another thing that you can do is color brave. And this is something that you can explore on your own, but a lot of people decide to be colorblind, right? So it's maybe exploring what it means to be color brave, right? Because colorism is something that's happened. We talked about it. It's been happening for many, many centuries within our history. It continues to happen within modern, right? Within modern colorism, with our modern days. And what's our future going to look like? So really think about, because a lot of people think about being colorblind, maybe think about being color brave, what that would possibly mean to you, okay? So a couple of things when we talk about colorism, it shouldn't determine your job prospects or your worth or your place in society. As we talked about history a little while ago, right, on how we had the paper bag, on how the hiring practices were it back then. So it shouldn't really determine that at all. So we're going to do this fun activity. Well, I think it's fun. From Harvard. I love this activity. Let me go ahead and share this with you because this is great. Let me share the link. This is a hidden biases. So we all have hidden biases. And you're like, what? We have hidden biases? Yes, we have hidden biases. So I want you to take this test. It's called Harvard Implicit. It's free. Skin tone I-18. So here's the link. Go ahead and take it. It's going to take about 10 minutes and come back and we're going to reflect on it. It's really good. It's called skin tone. So there's a whole bunch of them about LGBT, gender, etc. So click on the skin tone and we'll come back. Thank you. Okay, great. I do see a couple of you are finishing up. We're going to go ahead and wait another minute. I think people are still, it is a little bit lengthy. It's about 10 minutes, but we'll discuss it right now. Hopefully you did enjoy this. Hidden biases. I love it. It's from Harvard, and I love it. There's so many. I don't know if y'all saw. There's LGBT, there's race, there's gender, there's transgender. I mean, because we all have hidden biases. So I think it's very interesting. So we'll discuss it in a minute. I'm just going to give everybody 1 more minute because I think there's some folks still taking it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I was just saying, thank you. I was saying, let's go ahead and reflect and discuss a little bit about this. I love this Harvard Hidden Biases activity. So I wanted to reflect. What were your thoughts on this? And if you haven't taken it, it's actually really, really good. It was interesting. Why was it interesting, Daisy? Why was it interesting for you? What were some of your results? Does anybody want to share the results? It's actually really good. Thank you, Alan. I got your responses suggested no automatic preference between dark-skinned people and light-skinned people. Very good, Alan. Very good. So you got no automatic preference. Very good. So it's very shocking because sometimes people take this and mine said I had a preference for darker skin. Very good, Yovanka. So you had a preference. Shelly, apparently I have no preferences either. Okay. Very good. So maybe you were one of those folks who had a preference for lighter skin and darker skin, and that's okay to like recognize. Again, a lot of it is based on self-reflection, right? Christopher, you put slight automatic preference for dark skin people over light skin people. Very good. Mine said no automatic preference. I had a preference for darker skin, Adamani. Very good. So I'm sure there's about a lot of y'all in here that may have gotten, a preference for lighter skin than darker skin, and that's okay, right? It's all about your self-reflection, because if we're not able to self-reflect, how are we going to move forward, right? So it's really, really important. So very good. So very, very good about that. So hopefully you all like that activity because I love it. And you can feel free. There's a whole, you all saw the list in the beginning. There's hidden biases for transgender folks. There's hidden biases for LGBT. There's hidden biases for race, gender, disability, etc. And so this is a study that Harvard has done and continues to be doing. So I highly recommend it because we all have hidden biases. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's a part on how we reflect and how we grow as individuals. So we're going to go ahead and do the assessment and the participant survey. Does anybody have any questions as we wrap up today? Questions from people? Any questions that have come up? I appreciate all the discussion on the chat. I saw that y'all were very active with that. Any questions at all that you had? So again, it's very, very important for us to distinguish the difference, like Annabelle said a little while ago, the difference between colorism and racism, right? Because it can be very tricky. Thank you, Heidi, for saying no automatic preference. Very good. Very, very good. And it's okay if you don't want to, say, oh, you had a preference for it. So I remember when I took it, I took a long time ago, and I took all of them, and I for sure I had hidden biases for one group or the other. I mean, it's just about being a human being. Alrighty, let's see. Daisy, oh, it was interesting because of the mini activity I had plus I had no automatic preference. Jonathan, you put not really a question, just wanted to say overall this was very insightful. Very good, Jonathan. Well, I hope you all have enjoyed it. So I'm going to need a couple of things for you. Carla put, no, thank you. This was my first time attending and I really enjoyed everything that was talked about. Very good. Thank you. So this is your assessment. Go ahead and complete your assessment. We're going to be providing different programs for y'all with different topics. So in the feedback, you can put what kind of topics you want to hear about. We're always looking for student organizations to partner with. I'm partnering with CAN for next month, League of Empowered Women. So we're always looking for folks to participate and partner with us. Yeah, go CAN. So go ahead and fill out the first survey, and then I will give you the participant form where it's going to ask you for your t-shirt size. So go ahead and fill that out first, please. Fill that out first. Assessment time. It takes about a minute to fill that out. So our upcoming Social Justice Leadership Series is Friday, October 9th. We are partnering with CAN, and we're going to have on Snapchat coming out stories. So that's something to look forward to. You can participate and share coming out stories. It can also be anonymous. So if you don't want to share yours, I know CAN, we can also accept, anonymous submissions. So we are partnering with CAN for that. If you didn't know, October is LGBTQ History Month. So we are celebrating that through the Social Justice Leadership Series and the Soul Office along with CAN. So one of our events that we're collaborating is coming out stories. So make sure you're on Snapchat on Friday, October 9th. That is one of our upcoming events. Oh, Jonathan, I think you had a question. Is this separate from the S.J.L.S or is this a new series that will be done for the year? This is separate. So I want to make sure I clarify this. Social Justice Leadership Series is a new initiative. Every year we will have topics on social justice. Now, International Leadership Series, their main topic is social justice this year. They will not have this main topic next academic year. They focus on a different topic every year. So that's the difference between both of us. Yes, social justice will always be topics about social justice. Our social justice leadership ambassadors will be representing social justice. So again, our topics, it's all social justice related. Compared to S.J.L.S, yes, they're having social justice. That's the theme, right? That's their theme this year, right? But next year, it's going to be different. It changes every year for them. Yovanka, is it at night? Oh, the coming out stories, the Snapchat's going to be all day. So you can participate from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. You'll be on the Snapchat filter. You can share your coming out stories, or it can be anonymous. Yeah. And if y'all have more information, I know Alan is here on the chat, so you can ask Alan or anybody and a representative from CAN as well. Where do we provide the information for the shirts? That's what I'm about to give you. So, and this is while supplies last. Let me go ahead and give you this next form. I need you to put in your information and your t-shirt size while supplies last. First people that will receive their t-shirt are the ones from Latino Masculinities. We just ordered our t-shirts, so we should be receiving them hopefully by the end of the week, if not next week, early next week. So the first people that will receive their t-shirts, again, will be the Latino Masculinities, and then it'll be y'all. This is our second program. And so just make sure you do put your t-shirt size there. It's very important. So I will communicate with you. That's important for you to do the participation form. So I will communicate with you when you're able to pick up your t-shirts. And also, starting tomorrow, you can stop by the Soul office. And I would really highly recommend for you to stop by the Soul office as soon as possible. If you can tomorrow, if not Friday, the latest, and pick up your Airmark $10 food voucher. Everybody here that has participated, as long as you fill out the participant form, you will receive your $10 food voucher. Oh, did it take you to the same survey? Oh, Franchini, yes. If you took it, Franchini and Paola, if you took the survey in the Latino masculinities, just go ahead and fill it out again. I know, Franchini, I know you already filled out your t-shirt, so you're only going to get one t-shirt. It's the same t-shirt, but just go ahead and fill it out. That way we have on file that you were here today, and that way we can give you your $10 voucher. Yay, thank you. And then Alan put here something about Ken. Yes, next week we have National coming out. We were so excited about that. You know, Campus Island Network, they're doing a whole bunch of stuff. They're all on social media. Yes, thank you. So once you are done, you are good to go. So make sure you fill out those two, the assessment and the participant form. And I'll see you. Thank you so much, everybody. Oh, it's not letting you, Paola? Jonathan, that's a good question. I think the deadline was today. Let me check my emails, Jonathan. Hold on. Oh, the deadline to confirm is today, Jonathan. I know, Jonathan, you had a question for S.J.L.S. I'm looking at my emails, and that was for today, Jonathan. So confirmed, I would recommend for you. And if you have questions regarding that, that would be with Dr. Hudson. Dr. Hudson's the one that does S.J.L.S. So I would recommend for you to email him if you haven't accepted that, or reach out to him as soon as possible. Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. Franchina, it's not letting you. Let me click on the survey real quick if it's not letting you. Thank you, everybody. And if it's not letting you fill it out, just go ahead and stay here. Yes, Carla, just those two surveys, the assessment and your t-shirts for your t-shirt size. Oh, you did it? Okay, great, Paola. So it let you, so I think it's just Franchini. Paola, you did it on a private browser instead. Okay. Great, thank you, everybody. Oh, and the Student Center office, we're in STC 224 Priscilla. So our office is in the Student Center upstairs in 224. You can buy tomorrow, Priscilla, from 8 to 6. Or you can come by on Friday from 8 to 3 to pick up your food voucher. Make sure you do, because, you know, make sure you get your voucher. Bye. Thank you, Estine. So, Paola, let me see. I'm looking at the chat. Hang on, I'm reading all the chat. Scrolling down. Yes, it is a Snapchat event. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Fernanda. Thank you, everybody. No, Jovanka, it's all on Snapchat for October 9th. That's with. So if you'd like to participate, you don't have to, right? But if you'd like to participate in Coming Out Stories, that's on October 9th, all on Snapchat. So if you have Snapchat, or you can download the app, you can share it. And if you have questions, you can contact Ken. Any more questions from anybody? Franchini, are you there? Did it let you? I was able to do it on a private. Are you sure, Franchini? I'm saying it, so I just want to make sure. Any questions from anybody else? Great, thank you. Thank you, Jovanka. Thank you, everybody. Bye, everybody. Bye.